Well, I pulled you together. An urgent meeting. How can I put this? You've heard of global warming, no doubt. Unfortunately, a very large volcano has gone off, and temperatures are going to drop by 2 degrees in the next 5-10 years. As a consequently, there won't be enough food for you chaps to eat. So we have in our seminar decided that some of us will have to make sacrifices, and you'll be delighted to know that you are the ones who are going to have to make the sacrifice. Thank you very much. This press conference is now. My assistant will take questions. All right, sorry, a big one.
So thank you so much for being here, John. We really appreciate it. We've got 15 minutes today to just go through a few questions.
15 minutes?
15 minutes. Brace yourself. So we will kick off with Dave Elliott from Geek Town.
Oh, hi.
Dave.
Hi.
Speak to me, David. What is your question?
Lovely talking to you. I'm sure a lot of the people would talk about Lord of the Rings, but I wanted to just mention sliders, and I wondered how often that comes up from fans, and it's always felt like a show that was very much ahead of its time dealing with parallel universes, which have become a lot more popular with the MCU and that sort of stuff. It's something that I feel would be quite good for a reboot at this point as well.
It would be lovely to reboot it. It's one of the big annoyances of my life, partly because I mishandled it, but also partly because they didn't understand what they had. They had potentially their Star Trek. They had something you can go anywhere in space, anywhere in time. And the opportunities that presents are just limitless, technically limitless. And I just got very annoyed with the imitation of other shows. We did The Night of the Living Dead. We did the Morlocks and the Eloi. We did the robot thing. We did the Species thing. We did Tremors. We did Twister. Of course, our Twister was different. Twisters go like that, getting bigger. Ours was bigger at the bottom, getting smaller. Some absurd reason. I remember conversations like, you have a neutron star. Yes, and it's rotating, and, the X-rays are going to scorch the Earth. Yes, but do you understand what a neutron star does? And more than that, you now have 3 neutron stars. A neutron star is an immensely dense star. Do you actually understand what happens to planets when they are exposed to a something as dense, exerting such a gravity field as that? We checked with the scientists, and we said, could we have a cluster of neutron stars? I said, yes, I'm sure that they said you could have a cluster of neutron stars, but they didn't mean it in the solar system. Anyway, and their neutron stars, revolved at something like once every 24 hours. A neutron star spins so rapidly, right? It can sometimes be spinning, in a number of times per second, than anything else. With this lethal, exudation of gamma radiation and every other sort of killer radiation you can concoct. Sorry about that. Yeah. Yes. It is very odd, isn't it, how one's failures linger with you far more than your successes. We should reboot Sliders. And my idea and proposal was that we regroup the original 4, which can be done, and then we, after a couple of seasons, what we're doing through the seasons is rescuing a few people, testing them, see how the public responds to these characters. and using that essentially as a casting process, so that by the end of season 2, they would have certainly lost me, and perhaps eventually one or two of the others, leaving Quinn, essentially now performing, being the Max Arturo as well as the young Quinn, the older Quinn. And if you've got the right new blood in there with the chemistry that attracts the audience, and you've got good writing, then you could run it for 8, 9 seasons and then stop it there, and rest it for another 10, 15 years and use the ones who was really successful in the second thing as part of the new reboot for the series.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to do was to bring in other writers. Every week I would get a script sent to me by some bright lad from USC or NYU University and this sort of thing. And you look at it and you think this is a perfect script. It's original, and the it was excluded from the writer's trough. They did not want anybody else to get in there and take work away. And I understand that in a way, but a show like that needs ideas, and I would get professors running up to me in UCLA, outside in Westwood, in LA, and they would say, look, whatever you do, please don't mock science. It is so hard to get people involved in science that we need to do everything we can to make it good. And that's a responsibility that people, should recognize and accept. Yes, let's reboot Sliders. Sorry for the long answer.
It's all right.
Fantastic. So we'll now go over to Russell from Red Carpet News.
Thanks, John. Talking about great writing, obviously you and the rest of the team were responsible for breathing life into some of the greatest novels ever written with Lord of the Rings. I wondered if I can ask if you can share perhaps some of your most precious memories from set, particularly with Orlando and Vigo, and ask as well how excited or trepidatious you feel about Amazon and the upcoming efforts to revisit that world.
First of all, let me apologize to Amazon. I was approached by a journalist who said, John, what do you think about the remake of Lord of the Rings? And I shot my mouth off when I shouldn't, because I hadn't established the truth of it. They're not remaking Lord of the Rings. They're doing the prequel to Lord of the Rings. And I said, well, it's stupid, it's avaricious, it's absolute nonsense. They will never be able to. And I said all the right things, but in a nasty way, about something that was a false idea. That's not what they're doing. They're making that prequel to Lord of the Rings, which for Tolkien fans is hugely important. And I think, if they put the effort and inventiveness and creativity into it that Peter put into making Lord of the Rings, they will add a huge and lustrous jewel to the inheritance of Tolkien himself. So that's by way of apology. I think it's a marvelous idea. It was asked of me whether I'd be interested in doing it, and I said no. I was asked to be in The Hobbit, and in the end I had to say, look, when I've been one of one, why would I want to be one of 13? And more than that, I couldn't take the makeup anymore. Great stuff. Great stuff. Good luck to them. I hope they make a really long, wonderful masterpiece. Is that your question? Did I answer any of it? No, probably not. Try again.
Well, you definitely answered the question about the new project. I guess it was just your own experiences.
Right. Oh, yes, indeed. Look, when you're on something that long, I went there in September 1999. I think I finally finished, could it have been May of 2003, or was it 2002? I can't remember. May 2003, I think. Every day you had, a new memory, a new adventure. But I got asked one day, and I think I talked about it yesterday when I was giving a little talk. One of the loveliest memories, we reached that wonderful point where we suddenly found ourselves after a 3-hour journey on a location that was just breathtaking. A bowl surrounded by mountains with snow capping the top of it. Breathtaking. And we'd all stood there and just looked around. And somebody said, you know what? The audience is never going to believe that this is real. They're going to think that this is a painted backdrop. We shot there that day, and the bulk of the cast and all the crew, went back to the hotel. Viggo and I, we decided actually that, 3-hour journey back and then 3-hour journey back in the morning was not what we really wanted to do. And so we decided to stay in our trailers that night. There was then the issue of what we're going to have for dinner. And Viggo, that marvelous, wonderful human being and extraordinary person, he said, don't worry, I'll find it. There's a lot of water around here and no one's done any fishing here. So he took his fishing rod and caught us 2 trout. We cooked 2 trout over the fire, and that was our supper, and we chewed the fat and put the world to rights. And that is one of the loveliest memories. But there are 10,000 more. But for those, you're going to have to wait for the biography.
We'll pay.
Fantastic. So we've got Ian Skye from BBC Radio Derby.
Hello, you.
Hello, you. You were wonderful on the live stage yesterday, and you talked with a lot of warmth and generosity about other actors. You talked a lot about the lessons that life teaches you. I wondered if any other actors had taught you anything particularly precious over the years.
All young actors owe a huge debt to all the older actors that they work with. Young actors know that they are actually the greatest actor that's ever been. And they bear that awful stigma of ego. And all the older actors have to put up with it and just go, yeah, very good, okay. Now, if you stand a little bit still there, perhaps, the camera will actually be on you. What? No. I mean, they don't want me doing that. I'm doing this for the benefit of this camera here. In truth, all actors, one way or another, are taught by the actors who've come before. I remember in my very first job, there was an older lady, a lady actress, who said, well, of course, I never wanted to be a leading lady. And being the stroppy young actor, you thought under your breath, well, whoever would have asked you, darling, there's something. Cut to 6 months later, I'm playing Falstaff for Oxford Playhouse in Merry Wives of Windsor. And we're in Manchester Opera House, which is a 2,200 seat theatre. It's a Saturday afternoon when Wales is playing England at rugby. And we walk on the stage and there are 43 people in the house. And you could just feel the energy going out of the actors. They walked on, you could just feel like that. But when you're playing the lead, you've got to get through the play. And you suddenly discover, I have to put more energy into this and keep it alive for them. So you're suddenly changing your position slightly, coming closer to them, doing the words in a different way, being outrageously big and things like that. And slowly the actor's going, oh, all right, let's do it that way. And you come off at the end of the matinee and you were just drained. And people were saying, that was a jolly nice little run today. I really enjoyed that one. Looking forward to the evening. And you think, oh, evening. And that's when I understood what she meant by, I never really wanted to be a leading player, a leading actor. Because if you have the good fortune to lead and play the lead, you're responsible for the energy and vitality and the coherence of the whole performance. It is down to you, and you must feed the others so that they can go wonderful and be liberated and respond and it can grow. I wish somebody had told me that when I was at RADA. But that's life, isn't it? You know, all the obvious things that now we know, if somebody just explained that to us when we were younger, we might just be in a different position now.
If we listen.
If we live.
Fantastic. So we have Daniel Delagi from Geek Pride.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Oh, no, yeah. Sorry.
Improvise.
It's not going well.
I love that word. I worked with Jonathan Miller when we were doing The Tempest once. And Jonathan was one of the choice and master spirits of the age. And it was Monday when we were opening. This was at the Mermaid, circa 71 or something like that. We were opening on Wednesday, and somebody said, Jonathan, you know that short scene right at the beginning of The Tempest, we've not actually rehearsed it, and we're opening on 2 days' time. And Jonathan said, oh, yes, that scene, oh, Lord, everyone knows it, I suppose. Yes. Oh, God, well, okay, then. I have no ideas about this. Look, just walk it through and improvise. Improvise, he said. I love that word. It lends a certain dignity to chaos.
So, sorry. Phone went to sleep, so so inactive. But it actually sort of lends itself kind of to my question, which is, you have a very iconic and recognizable voice, which you have obviously brought forward to voice actor learning. So through, for example, Macbeth and Gargoyles, now available on Disney+, and also audiobooks. Is there a particular book that you would love to dictate in the future at some time to sort of bring to your fans who see?
The book that I shall be dictating one day is still in progress, and it begins, when my first mate died, I left the clan and went to walk the world. One day, I came across the tracks of a giant. It's a darn good film that I've written, and I've got to go out and shake the money tree and get It's about the ancestors of everyone in this room, actually. In the Ice Age, 22,000 years ago, there was probably a mile of ice above us here. Mm-hmm. By 18,000, it's beginning to recede. By 14,000, we have the beginnings of agriculture. By about 12 to 10,000, we have the beginning of city and empire. Climate does change, and changes very rapidly. But those ancestors of ours, we've been around for possibly 200,000 years, Homo sapiens. We shared the planet with other hominids, Homo habilis, Homo neanderthal, the hobbits, the Denisovans, and there are almost every month they seem to be finding a cousin of ours that went extinct fairly recently ago. Neanderthals probably disappeared about 35,000 years ago. My giant, obviously, is Neanderthal. And my hero sets out to kill the Neanderthal because the giant symbolizes death. But of course, when it comes to it, and he realizes the vulnerability of the old Neanderthal, he ends up caring for it as it dies. Incidentally, what do we get from Neanderthal? I'll tell you. The Neanderthals used to like to decorate their dead with red ochre, and we don't know why. Is it because they wanted to show that life was there, or to imitate life, the red of life in the dead face? The other thing is, they had this very strange thing that we, Homo sapiens, picked up and copied. When they buried their dead, they would put a large stone at the top of it, which we call the headstone. And we cribbed that from Neanderthal. What was the question? I've forgotten now. Anyway, so the answer is it's about time I did my own thing. I love talking books. They take an awful lot of time. And I'm still doing some series. I did a wonderful series for the Canadians about archaeology and demonstrating the veracity of certain aspects of the Bible, for instance. An interesting alliance between Christians in America who are anxious to demonstrate that the Bible is truthful and accurate, and the Israelis who are really interested in recovering their history and their past. Very interesting marriage, and amazing work being done. But to get back to my beloved story, our ancestors lived at a time where all the other hominids were really under pressure. They survived because the smartest found little marginal areas where they could gain a survival advantage. They lived long enough to have more babies, right? So inadvertently, we selected for intelligence. Everything we hunted was bigger, stronger, faster, swam or flew. The only advantage we had is between our ears. And when you select for intelligence, you select for a bigger brain. And a bigger brain has to have a bigger skull around it. And that bigger skull has to pass through a birth passage. Up until the end of the Stone Age, you'll find male skeletons in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even their 60s. You almost never find a woman over the age of 30. Up until the end of the Stone Age, the life expectancy of a woman was 21 years. Even in Roman times, it was only on average about 25, though we know of older Roman women, obviously. And the consequences of that are just remarkable. We are the descendants of brave adolescent girls who did whatever it took to make sure that this baby survives. And we are fortunate enough to have had them. But the cost in terms of other things. Have you ever asked yourself why, for instance, men traditionally have given little weight to the intellectual contribution of women? Why, in fact, frequently in our history and in contemporary times, women are not regarded as having anything significant or important to say. In writing this story, I understood why that is. Look, there have been, 40,000 generations of man. We as men go out, we meet each other on a hunting trip. We look at each other, we assess each other. He's young, he's strong, is he dangerous? Could we hunt together? Has he anything to contribute? If my back is turned, is he going to put that rather interesting spearhead, into my back? We've made assessments. We can start to read each other, and even then, con men still take us in completely. We've never learnt to read women. Why? Because it's only in the last 40 generations or so that we've ever met grown women. All our experience has been geared to teenage girls. Now, a 17-year-old teenage girl is wonderful and marvelous. But the difference between a 17-year-old boy and a 35-year-old man is a very considerable one. We never saw that change from girl to woman. Meeting women is a relatively new experience for our species. We never met. We've never really learnt how to engage with non-teenage girls, and we're only now, as a species, learning that trick. We've only had about 40 generations of doing that, and consequently, the idea that one should pay too much attention to the bletherings of a teenage girl is absolute. It's ingrained in us. They're wonderful, yes, but you're not looking for wisdom or philosophy or a contribution to culture and things like that. And then, of course, once they do mature and have the chance to bloom, then we don't know how to handle that. We cannot read a woman's mind. We've never met the damn. We've not any epigenetic experience to be able to look at them and say, I know what you're thinking. And we always get it wrong. There are two lovely women here. We always get it wrong. Anyway, sorry, that's no answer to your question, but then it was a boring question anyway. Did I say that out loud? I beg your pardon.
Well, that's all we have time for.
No, we haven't. We've got some more people here who do that.
Hi, I'm Rue. I'm from Concrete at UEA. You were one of our very first students just a few years ago. Obviously, the campus and campus life has changed significantly in the last few years it's been around. But I wondered how UEA has influenced your illustrious career and if you have any fond memories of your time at UEA.
I was one of the first 105 students to attend UEA. The world has changed very considerably. We regarded ourselves as very radical, and you would doubtless regard us as absolute dinosaurs. In fact, one of the things I wanted to do, at great risk, let me tell you, because your world is one where people can be cancelled for any unhappy remark. One of the things I wanted to do was to see if any of my first year intake are still alive, working, and cogent enough to be able to go and have a meeting with your guys and simply say, okay, look, this was us then, and it's important that you understand how we became the dinosaurs that we were, but we weren't always dinosaurs. And here's the thing, guys, one day you're going to be the dinosaurs. And we're lovely to do that. UEA. Just amazing. I put up the notice for the Drama Society on the first day. I made myself president of the Drama Society and stole the best parts until the forces of the second year and third year coming in made me have to grudgingly move over a little bit and decide. I was doing so much. I was actually doing a little bit for Anglia Television then and at the Manor Market Theatre and things like that. In truth, I was too immature to take advantage of UEA. I was way too immature. I only attended 4 lectures. When Rose Tremaine gave me my doctorate. I had an honorary doctorate from you guys about 5 years ago. Rose and I, I've got to be very careful about it. We've been friends at university, and I whispered to her as she was giving me my doctorate, I said, I bet you never thought you'd end up chancellor of the university. And she said, I bet you never thought you'd get a degree. It was, I wasted my time at university in the sense that if it was on the syllabus, I didn't read it. If it was off the syllabus, I did. I mean, I read the complete works of Thomas Nash. There were no questions on Thomas Nash and things, but I can still quote, bits of Thomas Nash. I read most of Ben Jonson. I even wrote something about Ben Jonson, a little play that I was going to write. But that was really my own intellectual cowardice. Sometimes when you're young and you've got an ego, you realize that sometimes maybe you're not as smart as you really think you are. And it's very important to pretend that you are smart. So sometimes you take the coward's way out and you say, I'm not competing in this way because I'm going to do this thing that way. And that was me, I'm afraid, at UEA. However, I did found the Drama Society, the Debating Society, the University Labour Club, the Liberal Club, and when we couldn't get any dialogue going then at all, sit down.
Time for one more question.
No. And because we couldn't get any political debate going and thing, I actually formed the University Conservative Club as well. I mean, I think one needs to be comprehensive about these things. It was great fun. My best wishes to you and all the guys and girls in LA, at UCLA. Right, now there was another question. Yes, this man there.
Rory from Team Letter Media. I actually met you a few years back at the London Comic Con.
Oh, yes?
It was you were one of the most enjoyable people to speak to. And you were telling me about the different people that have been speaking to you and how you enjoyed them all telling you what walks of life they were from and things like that. My question to you is there anyone that's made an imprint on you over the course of this weekend at the Birmingham Comic Con?
Yes. Yesterday, I was talking about shyness and how shyness is just vanity. And if you go into a room with a group of people like this for an interview, for instance, and you start thinking they're all judging me, you are immediately on the defensive. Go into the room and assume that they're all afraid of you, and your job then is to make them feel comfortable. Now, that's basically what I was saying yesterday. And there were 3 young people, all of whom got up and asked questions. And one even came up on the stage with me, which means that either I am very lucky, or maybe something that I said actually hit home a little bit. Met a 15-year-old boy here yesterday who wants to be a rocket engineer. Told them that science advancement in science is very much dependent on networking. And the sooner you can start networking, the better it is. And I suggested they join the Planetary Society to get to know the people there. Because the Planetary Society, and there are others like it, are filled with older people who have actually got their Nobel. They do work or did work at NASA or Jet Propulsion Lab and things like that. And their function is to bring on the next younger generation of scientists and engineers and architects and botanists and biologists and astronomers and things like that. A number of fascinating people. And I have to tell you that I have changed over the last 20 or so years. The first fan convention I went to, I thought, oh God, why am I being asked to go here? I mean, who are these weirdos? I mean, can't they get a proper life or something like that? Jesus Christ. And I went, and slowly I realized actually they do have a life. And some of them have a very full life. In fact, some of them are extraordinarily rich in terms of their life. And the more I started asking them about them, the more I got to understand the value of a Comic-Con where you dress up and something like this. You're in a small community. You love science fiction. You love science fantasy. You would love to be on the deck of Voyager in your dreams. But you're the only person in the community who does this. So by definition, you're a weirdo. You're a freak. And you go to a fan convention and discover the world is filled with other people with the same dreams, the same imagination. You're not a weirdo. You're not a freak. And that can actually literally save sanity and lives. The debt that I owe to my audience is so considerable. The man who first went to his first fan convention has been changed by meeting his fans. The truth of the matter is I like people more and more as I get older. And that is really down to going to fan conventions and listening to people. And I would now say to any actor, get to know your audience. Understand that we exist for them. There's that wonderful aphorism that every actor, every creative person should have on the wall opposite their headboard when they're open their eyes in the morning. And they should look at it and see the drama's laws, the drama's patrons give. And we who live to please must please to live. Yeah. If you take care of the audience, consistently, honorably, reliably, one day they will take care of you. Anybody else got a question? What about you? I bet you've got a question.
No, thanks.
Not even one question?
No.
Ask him for dating advice.
What, how old are you, by the way?
9.
9? 9 is very old, I must admit. What do you want to do with your life?
Be a wrestler.
Could you just come up here just for a second?
Yeah.
Stand here just a second. Well, yes, I can. It's a bit of a stretch, but I can see the wrestler here. But you may need to bulk up a little bit.
Yeah.
And remember, war is like wrestling.
Yeah.
Wrestling is like war. The thing is, you've got to work out how to win.
Yeah.
And that also involves the brain.
Yeah.
As well as your natural muscle.
Yeah.
Okay? So, find out, do well at school.
Yeah.
Really study, learn history, learn warfare.
Yeah.
Read about Count Belisarius, who probably never lost a battle, always was fighting people more than him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Study strategy and learn how to win. And then apply that to your wrestling. Okay? Spider-Man, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, John. That's all the questions we have today.
What?
Done.
All right, okay. Are we done? Did you get any question answered? Thank you for your patience, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
I'll be back for more.
You're welcome.